Welcome to Medicare Industry Insider. I'm Rachel Brameyer.
And I'm Jalen Jackson.
And today we have a fun episode going over books to level up your business. We were prepping this episode, and there's a lot of different things that you can do to level up your business. You can talk to mentors, you can find a class, you could go back to school. But one of the easiest ways to learn and to grow is to just pick up a book, to go to your local library, to rent it, to pay for it on any sort of app that you use.
Sure.
But to get a book in front of you allows you to learn from other people's experiences and learn what different things have helped people. Whether or not you agree with it, it at least gives you a different perspective. So today we're going to go over some of our favorite books that we have read to level up business, level up your personal life, and just overall level up who you are as a human. So that's what we're kicking everything off with today.
Absolutely. We've got quite a few to get through. We're going to give you some basics on each one. I'm going to start off with 10 Stories Great Leaders Tell by Paul Smith. One of my favorite books. Talk a little bit about who should read this. I'm a big believer that pretty much every business owner should be reading this book. As you can see, it is not a huge book. It's not a thick book. I read the entire thing for the first time on a flight from St. Louis to Washington, D.C., so it took me less than 2 hours to read. But it is packed full of just really short, actionable intel on how to create these 10 stories. So the idea that there are 10 very distinct and separate stories that you need to have about your business, everything from your founding story to your leadership philosophy and everything in between. And it's going to help you walk through some examples of those stories, some good ones, some bad ones, and then how to create your own. There is also a companion workbook to this actual book if you want something to kind of take notes and write as you go along. But the key thing I took away from this book is the idea that you don't really need an elevator pitch necessarily. You really need 10 of them. You need stories that have specific purposes for specific audiences. And as you craft those stories to tell a real narrative about what you do as a business, there needs to be a goal of eliciting a specific response, whether that's a sales conversation to develop a new client relationship, or whether that's a recruiting story to help folks understand why you are the right person or business to work for. The stories in these books can really help you level up your game, take your business to the next level. And the big thing is, no matter what stage of development you're in your business, there is a story for everyone in here. You need to be telling at least one of these every day.
I love it. The next one we'll go over is Brené Brown's book, Dare to Lead. If you've read any of her books, it's always about kind of tapping into the emotional side of leadership. So all of them have some sort of aspect with that. This one in particular goes into being honest and transparent when it comes to leadership, and then living holistically with the experiences and emotions that you've developed through that experience leading that person. It also goes into a lot of personal life things too, because whether you're married or you have friends or a spouse or any significant other, there's always aspects of needing to have that deep conversation to really understand that person's why, dive deep into being vulnerable, and then actually what impacts that person's day-to-day and what makes them tick. So basically anyone who has a team, anyone who has other people that you interact with on a daily basis that you need to go a little bit deeper with, it would be helpful to read this book. I threw in a couple of quotes that I really enjoyed on this particular book, Dare to Lead. And it was, "Clear is kind, unclear is unkind." I really liked that because a lot of times people pent up what they're actually feeling or assume that that person can read their mind or knows what they're thinking. But if you're very clear about what the expectations are, you're being kind and you're helping that person develop as a leader, develop as a person in your company, or even just have a better relationship with the person that you're living with. Another one that I really liked is Living Big, and that's BIG, and it's boundaries, integrity, and generosity. So I thought it's a nice takeaway that you can just remember it, because it's an easy thing to think, I'm living big. So boundaries, integrity, and generosity. But overall, basically, if you are leading a team, this would be a really good book to pick up just to figure out where maybe you need to go a little bit more deeper with that person, figure out their why, and maybe what makes them tick.
Absolutely. Next book is Atomic Habits by James Clear. Really popular book. If you're trying to achieve more or break bad habits or start new good habits, this is a great book to read. general concept is that everything starts small, from the smallest possible actions, more about how to build systems of small changes rather than big goals. And it says, how do you build a system that enables you to reach that goal, starting with some of those very small changes that is just that constant sense of refinement. So actionable steps on creating good habits, breaking bad habits, and then it discusses a lot of identity-based habits that really define the person you want to be and kind of how to get you there. And a great quote from this book: the purpose of goal setting is to win the game. The purpose of building systems is to continue playing the game. If you're a Simon Sinek fan, you have that famous talk of his.
On the book. I feel like we should have had him.
But
another good author.
That
if you
continuous game, yeah. True long-term thinking is goalless thinking. It's not about a single accomplishment. It's about the cycle of endless refinement and continuous improvement. Ultimately, it is your commitment to the process that will determine your progress.
The next one we're going to want to go into is a book called Think Again, The Power of Knowing What You Don't Know, and it's by Adam Grant. This book is really interesting because it really challenges what we know, why we think that way, and then maybe how to change that so you can be more open with the idea of changing. So it explores the science of changing your mind. It challenges the idea of the status quo, beliefs, and traditions that you may have in your life. And then it pushes you as a reader to get outside your comfort zone and discuss different ways to open up your mind into new thoughts. I really liked the way this one was written because it captivates you and it sounds boring like when we're talking about it, but it really does, like, as you're reading, you're like, oh yeah, oh that's really cool. So like I just remember reading it and like not putting it down because it was really easy to kind of just lose time when you're reading it.
Yep.
The reason we threw this one on here is our industry is always changing. That we always joke that there's like a very short half-life. It's a scientific term. They always say like there's a half-life when something decomposes, how long it takes to decompose. So half the life of that decomposed being. Our industry has got a very short half-life. I feel like within a year and a half to a year, like everything has shifted and changed. And I think that's important in addition to like just the knowledge base as an agent, but going also into like how you run your business, how you do things, what you're handing to them, what marketing pieces you're putting out there. Like, so thinking holistically about your business, and it helps you kind of learn what needs to be changed, how you need to be changed. So this book it dives deeper into like the aspects of why you should change, but also steps to open your mind up, which is nice. Sometimes it's a little hard. Some quotes that I really liked out of this book is, we often prefer the ease of hanging on to old views over the difficulty of grappling with new ones. And then another one that I really liked was, the curse of knowledge is that it closes our minds to what we don't know. So little things like that just dive into being open to change.
Well, and that's a great segue into the next book, Talking Medicare by our very own Dan Mangus. Mm-hmm. So this is something that we've been working on for years and years, and Dan has put out several editions of this book. So keep an eye out for a new edition before long, I'm sure. But anyone in the Medicare space, that's who should be reading this book. If you've ever needed a reference, had a question, didn't know where to find something in writing, this is the book for you. This is Encyclopedia Britannica meets CMS. It houses answers to a huge numbers of Medicare's questions, the pitfalls, side quests, all sorts of things. It's a definitive resource and reference guide. And if you're in the weeds with complex cases pretty regularly, it's going to be a must-have book for you to leave on the shelf, set on your desk, have handy for when those questions come up that you just don't know an answer to. Great resource. And I think the key takeaway from this, even just glancing through it, using it as a reference, you just don't know what you don't know. And with Medicare, there is a lot to not know.
Yes. Continuing with the topic of change, because that is a huge part of our industry. If you're more into like a thinner, quick read, I think I probably read it in an hour.
Sure.
It's a book called Who Moved My Cheese by Dr. Spencer Johnson. This is an interesting book. It's kind of humorous. It's demonstrating the rat race that we actually live in, of who can actually take away the change and who is kind of stuck with where you're at. It follows 4 mice, so again, it's humorous, and they're in a rat race maze, basically, where they're moving cheese around. Sometimes the mice find the cheese, they get really excited and they stick around and they eat it all. They get very, very happy and content, and then they don't change. There are some that go out and actively look for more cheese once they find it. So it's just demonstrating that some people get content with success and they don't change, and then other people are willing to be a little uncomfortable for a little bit, even though they have comfort right in front of them, to make sure that they are changing or responding to any future changes coming up. So super short read, super easy to read, but it does get you a humorous kind of fun way to look at how to mentally prepare yourself for any change going forward. There's some really easy, quick quotes that are fun to read about. It's life moves on, so should we. Another one that we really liked is see what you're doing wrong, laugh at it, change, and do better.
Absolutely. So another quick read for your Monday morning, maybe. Monday Morning Leadership by Dave Cottrell. This has been a great one. We just read not too long ago with a group of agents, and hopefully it was really valuable to them, and I hope it'll be valuable to you, especially if who should read this one? If you are currently growing or struggling to grow a team, working with employees for the first time, or even downline agents that may be independent and struggling to kind of how to lead that group of people and work with them. This is a book that's going to show you how to keep your priorities straight, make sure you can handle tough decisions, and have that clear sense of purpose when leading a team, just getting everyone on the right page. Sometimes the right thing to do is the hard thing to do, and learning is about a lot more than just collecting knowledge. So this was a great book with a lot of just 8 really quick mentoring sessions that the author went through with a mentor of theirs, and some of the takeaways that they got from that. One of the big things is, moving from an employee or a solo salesperson to leading a team can be tough. But if you're going to approach it correctly, keep your head on straight, learn to have those hard conversations, it's really not going to be that big a deal. Another one that is, again, just a super quick read. Catch this over a few coffee breaks, and you'll be a much better leader for it.
The other one that we want to go over is Onward by Howard Schultz. This is one of my favorite true case studies. So if you're into actually learning about companies, and I love a podcast called How I Built This, so it had a very similar feel to that, where it's walking through a CEO and their struggles that they go through to make sure that the company is moving in the right direction. So it was really, really great to see that not only was it a case study, but it's written by the actual CEO of Starbucks, and it's very easy to read. It's not super tiny, but it feels like a quick read when you are reading it, because he's walking through his experiences, but also what he's doing and actionable things that you can then take away as well as a person, as a business owner. So one of the things that he actually starts the book with is he's retired. He's basically just there to consult, and they're pulling him back into the business because they're in financial devastation and they're trying to figure out how to fix this crisis. So he gets pulled in, and his job is incredibly hard. It's to fix the culture, the client experience, and overall just inefficiencies that are going on in the business. So the book follows him through this journey of this crumbling company that he's trying to turn around, and he didn't leave it like that. He left it very successful. So if you enjoy reading about companies, if you like coffee, if you want to just see how setbacks can be overcome and how sometimes it's not always your fault, but you're getting put into a situation that may not be the most easy to overcome, reading through how other people have helped move the trajectory of a company in the right direction is nice to read, and it gets you out of your current element of insurance all day. Some of the really good quotes that I enjoyed reading about this is, he says, "In times of adversity and change, we really discover who we are and what we are made of." I think you really see the heart of who he is through that book, of not only his personality, but what drives him and his why. And then I love this other quote. He says, "When we love something," which he very much does, and it shows in this book, "emotions often drive our actions. This is the gift and the challenge the entrepreneur faces every day."
So another one, The Energy Bus by John Gordon. This is a quick and easy read. Here's who I think should read it. If you are looking at coming home every night, feeling tired, feeling exhausted, feeling like getting up to work, go to work the next day, work on your business, work in your business is going to be just a gargantuan effort. If you're feeling down on yourself, if you're feeling like you need to reevaluate your attitude, who you surround yourself with, and your goals, this is going to be a really good book for you to read. It's going to tell the story of a guy whose car breaks down. He has to take the bus. He's not doing well at home. He's not doing well at work. And he gets some real life lessons from the bus driver. It's kind of a comical take on some of the things that we all face every day, but it really talks about largely the power of positive thinking, but it goes more in depth, I would say, than just some of the kind of woo-woo, self-helpy type stuff. It talks a lot about finding people that support your mission, that support you, and believe in you and your goals. So looking for the right mix of people. And, one of the big things, the quote here, some of the people are going to get on your bus and some people won't. Don't worry about the people who don't get on your bus. Don't waste your energy on them. Don't try to make them get on. You can't drive anyone else's bus. You can only drive your bus. So looking at it from this perspective and looking at your attitude about work, your attitude about your life, really great to kind of introspect a little bit after reading this book and just reevaluate some priorities. Do you have the right people in the right places in your agency? Are there people that are pulling out energy from your day-to-day that maybe aren't the right fit? Do you have employees that refuse to get on the bus, the vision for the company, that maybe you either need to reevaluate some priorities with them or maybe just find someone new? It is a really great kind of assessment book, I would say, to kind of take stock of what's going on in your life.
I love that, and this is going to be off topic for just a second, but I was in a Zig Ziglar training, and they had this really cool visual of someone on a canoe, or multiple people on canoes, and they had the first couple people rowing, going forward, and then they had the people in the middle who were probably just coasting, but, if you're up front and you're rowing really hard, sometimes it's hard to look back and see that those people are just coasting, and then the very back of the canoe, they had zombies, and they were rowing the wrong direction. So I think this was the energy bus is a good example of that canoe, of just people who is on your bus or your canoe. Are they rowing the right direction and keeping you in the right direction? Which actually leads perfectly into the next book that we were going to talk about, which is Essentialism, The Disciplined Pursuit of Less by Greg McKeown. And this particular book goes over what is important in your life. So this one, like the energy bus, is all about people. This one's all about examining holistically what your life looks like and where your goals are. The idea is that you focus on your strengths and prioritize your life and then choose to instead of feeling like you have to or society is telling you to. So it's going into where are your strengths, focusing on your strengths, and overall just making sure that you're setting your life up the way that you want to. So again, this goes back to anyone who's wanting to reprioritize your life and then focus on your strengths. I think this is a good book for anyone to read, because there's a lot of different goals you may have, whether it be business, personal, relationship based, and it goes into basically making sure that you've had a deeper look into that. And I liked reading it because it was more like textbooky style, but it did give you tangible action plans throughout it, and I think it was just an easy read because of that. And one of my favorite quotes in that was, "We overvalue non-essentials like a nice car or a house, or even intangibles like the number of followers on Twitter or the way we look in our Facebook photos. As a result, we neglect activities that are truly essential, like spending time with our loved ones, nurturing our spirit, or taking care of our health."
Absolutely. This next book is kind of a classic. If you've been in the sales field for very long, you may have already read it before. This is, I think, a little bit of an updated edition of Guerrilla Marketing by Jay Levinson. So first came out in the 80s. It's been updated several times since then to kind of keep up with the times. But if you are looking for some out-of-the-box or unconventional marketing strategies, or if you're a newer agent, someone who has more time than budget for marketing, this can be a great way to kind of reset the clock on marketing, refresh your brain, come up with some new ideas. That try anything attitude can go a long way, especially If you're sitting there on a shoestring budget, or even if you have a budget but you're kind of lacking direction, this can help you find some of those unique ways to pattern interrupt folks and work your brand into someone's life with a little bit of creativity and grit. So dozens of ways to get out in front of people. If you're just starting out, all of them can really be a valid way to prospect. This is going to go over mini media, maxi media, online, on the street, everything from bulletin boards to billboards and podcasting and online and everything in between. But lots of great information in there. And even if some of the references are a little bit dated, if you've got an older edition, the concepts can be translated really easily into some of our modern, whether it's Facebook groups or Nextdoor apps or, various other, local media that you might have access to. And just a really good book full of little takeaways that you can apply to your marketing.
The next one goes into more the client experience. It's called Unreasonable Hospitality by Will Gardiner. And he is telling a story. It's his own story, actually. He is walking through his experience. Personally, he was a cafe restaurant manager who got the opportunity to manage a Madison Square Gardens restaurant. And his goal was to be a top 50 restaurant in the nation. And I think because of his background where he was working in a cafe diner setting where it's more hands-on, you're touching people, you're sitting down, you're having that cup of coffee with them, he pulls that into that 5-star dining experience, which is very unheard of, where you're thinking white gloved waiter sitting near the table, hands behind the back, pulling nice dishware out and lifting the covers off the plates to display the food, but there's no personal aspect in that. He even gave a story of he wanted to make sure that the customers didn't feel like they had to run back out to put money in their meter. So one of the things he asked the waiters to do is to ask, hey, when does your timer run out? Okay, perfect. We're going to go ahead and run someone out there to put some more money in there. Or getting down on your knees, touching the white table, having that conversation with the customer sitting there, and even having the chefs come out and having those conversations were unheard of when he started in that 5-star restaurant aspect. So the nice thing is if you want to hear like a real personal first-hand experience, you really get to hear that, but it also drives you to think and reevaluate your systems and processes and what your client's experience is with you. So it's a nice way to take a different perspective. Again, this one's all restaurant related, but some of the things you mentioned was that he has a rule of 95-5, which that's how he spends money when he receives it. So 95% of the money goes towards things that are essential in that business. And then 5 is just a really cool idea or something that would surprise or enlighten or create a better experience for that client that maybe is just completely unreasonable. But he mentions that guest experience created from that is sometimes the smartest money you'll ever spend. The other thing he says is hire those who are curious about what they didn't know and generous about what they did. So he does dive a lot into having the right people on the bus to make that client experience really good.
Absolutely. To Sell is Human by Daniel Pink. This is another great sales book. If you're an agency owner or support staff in an agency and you want to kind of talk about how to find the sales drive within every role in your company, and how to talk about sales no matter what someone's day-to-day is, and just how to move other people to action, this is a really great book for that. So, kind of from the back cover, is that 1 in 9 people are in sales, but really so are the other 8. So if you're going to if you want to learn new ways to sell in every role, how to structure a pitch, how to do more, this is a really great book for that. It's going to go through things like how to develop that pitch, whether it's an elevator pitch, some of the precursors to the elevator pitch, some great exact stories and some sales case studies to go through, and then talk a little bit about how everything is sales. If you want to rethink the roles in your business and how to make human interaction the center of your sales process, this is going to be a really good book to help you do that.
So we've got 2 Daniel Pink books. The next one we wanted to go over is Drive. This one in particular, he challenges how we motivate people. One of the things he brings up is the carrot stick approach of putting a reward in front of someone is wrong and demotivates a lot of people. and that the actual initiate drive is to seek autonomy and purpose that most people really are seeking, and that outweighs any reward that you can actually give them. So he goes into a lot of detail about where his philosophy is coming from, why that's there. And I think as a business owner, it goes back to figuring out what really drives your team, what drives you, and making sure that you're focused on the why, focused on where their purpose is, what gives them autonomy in your company. And that should outweigh any reward that you could do that's either monetary or gift or anything like that. It's a really good way to just make sure that your team is feeling accomplished and understands your goal, driving them forward. I love this quote because he kind of dives back into like where this all came from of being a child in school. He says, children are praised for being smart, often believe that every encounter is a test of whether they are or not. So to avoid looking dumb, they resist new challenges and choose the easiest path. By contrast, kids who understand that effort and hard work leads to mastery and growth are more willing to take on new and difficult tasks. So going back to school, where if you are telling people this is a test, you're smart or you're not, if that's pulling them in and intrinsically, pulled into their work world, then you're rewarding the wrong thing. You need to be rewarding growth, mastery, and then hopefully that'll allow your employees, allow yourself to look at things as a challenge, try new things, and they won't be so scared to fail.
Absolutely. So just kind of to wrap things up, we picked, 14, 15, I think, ish books that we have enjoyed, that one or both of us have read. Definitely not the only books out there to help you level up your business or solve particular problems in your life, but just a few that we have really enjoyed. Definitely want to continue to encourage folks to find books that help you solve problems, find a mentor, draw on experience from others. There are lots of ways to level up your business. Books are one of the lowest commitment ways, I would say, because there's not another person you're committing to, but I think there's also a lot of value in that. So join a book club, get a couple friends together to go through one of these books, start looking at how to actually take action on the ideas and concepts that jump out of the pages and into your mind, and then really look at how those things can be implemented in your business on a day-to-day basis and on the longer term scale. So with that, we'll leave you today. If you've got questions about any of these books or want our notes from them, I'm sure we'd be happy to share them, so reach out. But with that, we'll see you on the next episode.